We are Robolancers 321. I think most of you were here the hour before, but if you weren't, now you know who we are. This is our talk, How to Impact. And so if you didn't know, in 2022, we presented for Impact at both of our district events and lost. We didn't advance to our district championships and obviously didn't advance to Worlds. But this last year, in 2023, this April, we won the Best Impact Award at the World Championship in Houston. And now we're in the Hall of Fame. So today we're going to be talking about the competitive strategies that we implemented over this past year to really enhance our impact presentation and talk about how you guys can use these strategies too. So let's get into it. Yeah. We'll just introduce ourselves again. I'm Iris. I was an impact presenter for the past 2 years and our impact coordinator last year, and now I'm a business lead.
I'm Lily. For those of you who were in the last talk, I was an impact presenter last year and also the award coordinator, and then this year I am the Robolancers president.
And I'm Maddie. Last year I was the development director, and this year I'm also a business lead.
That was us at SCH. So what is this talk? This talk is our thoughts on the first impact award process, thinking competitively, our suggestions on the best strategies, our ideas, and also potential hot takes on the FIA. And it is based off of our successes and our failures in first. Very important. It's not a how-to guide or tutorial for the first impact award, and it is not about building outreach programs. That talk was actually last, but if you have questions about how to start, grow, or sustain your outreach programs, please come talk to us. We'll talk about that. Yes.
Okay. Overview. So we're going to talk about structure, then context, scouting, wording, storytelling, and then we're going to have Q&A at the end. So just to go over it, there are 4 parts in the impact submission. We have the executive summaries, the essay, the prepared presentation, and your question and answer for the judges.
We think you guys already know about that.
Yeah.
Again, if you have questions, come up to us.
Okay, and then now we're going to talk about supporting materials. So this is the big binder that you give the judges all of your evidence behind every claim that you're making in your exact summaries, your presentation, and your essay. So you want only what's necessary. You should have a lot of evidence, but you don't want to give the judges a full binder on your entire team's history. They're only looking at the past 3 to 5 years, so they don't want to read through 20 years of your team. And they don't really have a lot of time to look at the binder, so it's important that the information and the evidence that you want to get across is easy to find. So if we go into that, there were summary pages and a table of contents and dividers, making it easy to navigate, find all the information that they want to see. So yeah, we're going to pass around our impact binder from this past year.
Feel free to look through.
You can look through all of it. But yeah, just pass that around throughout the talk.
Yeah, so like to add on, the main point, as I see it, of these supporting materials of your binder, the things that you hand to the judges, is to basically provide like quantitative evidence for every single claim that you made. So, for example, in the final part of our presentation, we talk about how our city has a lot of poverty and how our school district is known to have a lot of poverty. And so, in our binder, and it'll be in the last few pages of the binder, you'll see articles, statistics, evidence on exactly that claim that will prove all of those things that we just said. Also of note is that we put it at the end of the binder because it's at the end of our presentation. Try and keep your things kind of organized the same way as your submission is. Great. So context. I feel like you might have heard this before, but we really want to drill it home. So great. Okay, so context. You need to give the judges background information on your community. Do not assume that they know what your community is like. Think about the barriers that you have identified. If you were in the last talk, a barrier is something that stops a person or group from getting to a goal or task. And use statistics and connect those statistics, especially to your barriers, but connect those statistics to all of the claims that you're using. Again, for example, we talked about a barrier, the barrier of the barriers to access to education. And so to support that, we added in evidence and statistics about education in our city. And that second point, don't assume that they understand your community, is super hard to get right. We, for example, have been telling the judges for years that we work within our city and within our school district. Cities can be all different sizes. So what we were going into that was what we thought was intuitive, that our city has over 200,000 students and over 300 schools. That is not something that most of the judges knew because they were coming from different places than us. And so when we would go into the room and talk about how we do work within our school district, they were not picturing the same scope that we were picturing. And when we changed that, it helped a lot.
Okay, so you can use context anywhere in your submission, your executive summaries, your essay, your presentations, Q&A. It's really important to drive home why the judges should care about what you're doing and the reasoning behind like each aspect. So transportation was a big barrier for us because of our community and that context of like why transportation was an issue. Help the judges understand why it was important for us to solve.
Okay. And then when we're discussing community, you should be telling the judges who you're impacting and what barriers you and others within your community face. Like we said before, the judges don't know your specific circumstances. They don't know your community. There's very low chance that they're from where you are from. So it's important to give them information on this. It doesn't have to be a huge section of your essay or a huge section of your presentation, but including that in parts of your submission really helps articulate your point more and explain the significance behind a lot of your work, especially if your work is super specific to the circumstances within your community.
Yeah, we do this to kind of like have the judges put themselves in our shoes and kind of realize, like, think through each of our initiatives. Like, why are we doing this? And when it succeeds, what impact, like looking at, once they understand the barriers that you're facing, why is this specific goal so important? And so it really makes them think like us. And that's really, really important. So yeah, I guess why do we do this? Yeah, it adds an emotion to your submission. It makes the judges realize what exactly the obstacles that you've been facing are, and that is so important. And it gives the judges a clear picture of your work. So, for example, like the school district, which I was saying before, it helped the judges understand the scope of our mission, of our work, and why we haven't reached it, why we are still working on it, because it's so big.
Okay, group activity. So you're gonna talk to the people next to you about what is your community, what is the goal within your community, and what barriers do you face.
Yeah, what barriers do you face? And what context could you provide that would that someone from the outside would need to understand why that is so important?
We thought there would be less overlap between the two talks.
Yeah, but
so if this is similar,
talk again. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, we'll be joining.
We were talking about how our tech make you live in that's so like and watch places like that's not saying you should see our goal is to make it up
Yeah. They swim in the
So
soup.
what would you say that you were teaching? You were in the last.
That's not too far. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so.
Actually, for
I don't know about that one.
I know that's. Yeah, okay, cool. So we can.
It says 30.
But like our school is very big. I would like curious like what yeah, we talked about the next meeting. Not like our what about at night? That's really outside school. Like have a ride. Yeah, not accessible, so you have most of your outfits going back home, getting back, ride back. What barriers? Okay, I'll look at it. Our community is most hubs go like directly. Basically, our that's what we consider. Yeah, because we and our goal is like we can have we're not necessarily
but they.
like what barriers do you face?
it's like because without any mentors, just directly so I have to make them feel like be more interested.
I need sources.
Yeah. That was really important. Yeah. Just to get like more anyone who's like more likely to come after they're right after getting that's really good. Like so actually that's like a good opportunity to get
yeah, okay, so what context? Okay, so I want to talk about the barriers.
Abandoned areas.
So we started paying
I saw the other
and so giving us they can't if you said that doesn't have the same effect. So what is supposed to provide behind those barriers?
Tomorrow we have a fundraiser.
I don't think this, it did take 11 years. Oh, right.
When you
Change your job.
Yeah.
I would do it. I think all business. So everything goes down.
I gotta come back to see the place because you have bigger than everything in our school. Like, it's bigger than a football team. Like, we, like, our band is very small, and ours is like tiny. So a lot of people, and band goes from like 250 for like and they march outside. Like,
She's
you know how my band is it's like around the time very like, so as far as the majority of school is the band, and like I think that is something that you can't really get.
Almost like you probably know guys.
Very you know what it means? That was like a big church structure for Caitlin Jordan. Yeah, but we have like people that we have. It's more like it's we have 30 members, but like tell them they just like
He punched the board. Hit the board just like.
I think that's what. Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. I have so, yeah, is there anything like what do you think so what is stopping it?
No, during other our first year
And what's stopping it?
yeah, they did and then like 2010 last year to say.
Gosh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, last year. Like, yes. A lot.
Every single day we graduate like I was really bad. Every single matter of that was like our main as well.
Yeah, I got you. All right, guys, we've talked for a little bit longer than we were going to, so we're gonna wrap it up. the conversations, I'm so sorry. We were talking. Yes, if you want to continue the conversation later,
Please get to it.
Sorry,
guys, we gotta get the. All right. So did anybody hear something interesting that they want to talk about? Was there any interesting conversations was there any interesting takeaways that you guys would like to share? It's okay if not, we do have candy for you. Get some candy, come on. Okay, great. Missed your chance. All right, let's keep on going.
So now, we're gonna talk about scouting for the Impact Award. Scouting was one of the most instrumental things that we implemented this past year. It was a really great tool for us to improve our submission, and we think that it's a really amazing thing that not many teams do, and more teams should try it because it's a really great way to learn about other teams and improve on your own submission. Okay, so why? I kind of already said some of this, but the first Impact Award is a competition, so why do we treat it differently than the robot game? We scout for robots, so why not scout for impact? And you can use scouting to find things that you like in other teams' submissions and learn from their submissions. You can also use scouting to find ways in which your team is unique. Lots of first teams have similar outreach programs, but lots of teams, there might be some small differences that make your team unique. And through scouting, you can learn what those are and highlight those in your presentation. For example, lots of teams run summer camps, we do too, but ours are free. And we didn't really think this was super unique until we looked at other teams and realized that it is really unique. So we started highlighting that in our presentation, which the judges caught on to and really found interesting. So even though it's like a small detail, it's a way in which our team is unique, and we were able to learn that and highlight that in our presentation because of that.
Yeah, so the first step to this is research your competitors. If we competed against you at Impact this year, probably saw us come up to you, we probably read your materials. Look into the other teams that are at every single competition that you're at. Yes, this means World. We have a spreadsheet that has all 84 teams that were competing against us at Worlds. We have down all of the times that they've won. We took down notes on every single one of their essays, websites, social medias, videos, past submissions, past essays, winning essays, not winning essays, everything. We and figure out what their big thing is and all of their other initiatives. Write them down. We like to use whiteboards and create graphic organizers. We also have a giant spreadsheet that we would show you, but we didn't. We can let out a template at some point. It's super simple. We write down all of the information that we think that we would want to know as a judge, if that makes sense. And so yeah, write down main parts of a team's work, and then look at your work, see what's comparable, and use that to get better.
And yeah, also adding on to that, if you didn't win at that competition, it also helps to understand why you didn't win and what the other teams were doing that was maybe stood out to the judges. Okay, and even if you haven't pre-researched teams or you want to know more about what teams do, the best way to understand what they do is to talk to them at the competition. So we go up to teams in the pits and we would look at their materials and ask them questions about what they do, why they do it, and that gives not only understanding of their outreach, but also how they talk to the judges about it. So you can understand, just their point of view on what they do, and then it also helps them grow because you can talk to each other, you can have conversation about how you can create effective outreach. And it was really
I don't know if I know we talked to every team that was competing against us at every event, and it was great. We had some really good conversations and learned some really
interesting things. You make new friends.
You do.
Like, it's not just about improving your impact and your submission. Like, it's also great to just talk to people.
Impact-minded people is so important. Yeah. So.
Okay, and then judging. Learning how the first judging system works is so important. Even though most of the people in here can't judge at FRC competitions, we can still judge at FLL competitions. And even though it's not the same, it gives you kind of an idea of what it's like to be a judge. which is super helpful when you're preparing for awards. Thinking from the perspective of a judge is key to thinking about like what you need to highlight, and then also how much time you have to talk and how much time they have to talk. Going back to like the binder thing, they don't have much time to look at it, and it's important to know that. And then also, if your coaches or mentors can, them judging FRC competitions will also give you some insight onto that judging system and how it works. So encourage them to go do that. And then also bring a mentor into the room. Most teams do this, but if you don't, you should. And have them take notes on everything you say. This helps you debrief and improve on your presentation for the next time that you're doing it. We have all of our questions, all of our answers.
We have she wrote down every time we said or as well, like and who said. You want them to take very, very detailed notes afterwards every single time. We would sit down,
Talk about our answers, everything.
Yep.
We also have all of our questions from the past like 10 years, and that also helps to go over when you're preparing before competitions, because even if your outreach isn't the same, it gives you an idea of what parts of your team judges are maybe a little confused about, so that you can better explain them at the actual interview.
Yeah, and it gives you practice answering really generic questions like, what is your favorite thing about your team? Or really specific questions. Really, it gives you a really good, it gets you ready. It even gets you ready for questions that you just don't know how to answer, like very specific questions about what our team did 10 years ago, which we don't do now. We practice all of that.
So questions that are like completely out of the blue, or like just something completely unexpected, maybe even not related to your presentation, just to practice like
Practice turning it around, making it into something that you can talk about. Okay.
So now we're getting to activity where you guys are going to scout.
Yeah, so try this out. What you're gonna do is we're gonna hand out some copies of our essays, not our executive summaries, but you can find them all online. You can also find our website, social media, TBA, videos, everything online. We're gonna give you 10 minutes. In groups, make groups 2, 3, 4, whoever, and get together and scout us. You guys are gonna try and find our big thing, our mission statement, our barriers, our bridges, our community, and then any weak points in our presentation. Please, please, please be specific and don't be scared to tell us, because we want to know.
You guys share.
You're doing our work for us. Thank you so much. We're not going to help you do this.
Question for you.
What, Maddie?
When you're talking, do you hear the camera?
No, people can share. They don't all need to
You
be.
hear
Sharing is caring. You guys.
Does anyone else need a paper so I can
Does anyone
share?
else need an essay?
You can also save it for next time, Lily.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We should probably have this. Thank you.
Sometimes I start saying,
No, I actually
because
put
they
like,
make
oh,
it
no,
clear.
Good job.
Yeah, no, and seeing the cameraman makes me notice a lot of things, about the things I'm thinking.
You're not reading.
A lot of hands.
Okay, guys, we're reading. Okay, so you're looking for our main thing. What is our overarching initiatives that we do? You're looking for our mission statement, our barriers, our bridges, our community, and any weak points that we have.
You might not be able to find everything that you want to know in our essay. If you have more questions, I mean, you should be able to, because we put all of these things into there. But if you have any more questions, either ask us or look online. Oh, and another thing, write down any questions you have, because we want to show you that we can maybe answer them.
Yeah, the first name is secondary. Keep water. Then they shut down the line. These because the generator.
Why do you have a two?
It's so hard. I feel like your phone.
I'll take. So that Yeah, they bring it all the way back to like the estimate. Local town. But even then.
Okay. Okay, and I see
Lots.
my last one.
That's not why we're not.
I joined FRC.
Yeah, I know a little bit about. Yeah, okay.
I'm older.
Yeah.
No, I don't see how you get more different.
Even though it's not.
Who am I? Right now.
No, no, yeah.
I was 5 years old. Politics.
Okay. So, you're gonna get it.
I'm gonna come back.
Are you so back? Oh, so you're because they're over.
That's not even I don't believe that.
Older than
I don't think that necessarily gonna happen. My other brother called me.
Okay, no one.
Yeah, actually 14.
Wow.
Maddie, you're right. You're right.
That's good. That's great. They might have something to say. They don't want to.
And this is just.
Actually, I'm more than.
Do you guys have any questions?
Oh, no. So much more.
It's not, that's my.
Bob, if anything you want to add.
Literally.
You might know these processes better than.
That you would have, there's actually,
That's
you
my.
guys are, I'll talk to you later. You figured it out.
It's a bullshit.
Can you
Talk later.
turn back on that?
No, I'm sorry. Well, you don't get feedback from me as a student, right? Yeah. Okay, not
They
specific.
need a good manager.
Work faster.
We try.
I don't want to be.
Maybe they.
Work faster. I'm definitely doing a load check.
You know.
This is not our captain's signature move.
It's a movie.
It's Duncan, it's Duncan. I would go, yeah, what's up? But I'm just never good at it. They all know.
No, I never said you would, but
Hannah was gonna be here when I.
I'm saying if that's our theme, all the examples.
I think we did that
No,
probably.
you said you wouldn't.
No, I said.
You said you would not do it. I'm not gaslighting you, just to. Why? Why did it work out?
Yes, okay, sure.
Are you in Texas? Are you do?
Okay, sure. Okay.
That's what I.
Wait, tell. No.
Mentors got. Oh my God.
You take a photo of
They
it.
said if you guys would holiday,
If you don't listen to us, gonna get it.
I think
Oh, we gave it.
Found out
gave it
something
to our,
back then.
Yeah.
And then we threw it a little egg.
This is like big. That's big.
The tattoo.
List all the questions.
Just see it and then we're. No, wait, why?
Oh,
Was it Megan? It was Megan, yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh.
So you just, it was Apple, like we questions about TRX.
You guys are gonna be.
Iris,
Did
did you make your, like, you're like.
I can't tell you. Wait, Iris, I can't tell him.
No.
I have a list, it's like, it's.
Well, I know the option. I can't tell them anything.
Listen, they won't believe me.
Just,
Okay, speaking from, just.
no, I don't care, just go to center page.
TRX?
You dare tell them that, but I can
I'm all saying.
I know your day.
Jason, no, we all know.
Gaslight.
Literally.
Yeah, we talked to
They're
them.
gatekeeping. They're gatekeeping.
They promise
You
you
guys, like,
that
always
every
do that. Like, what you
Here's
guys
to
do?
be honest, we also like,
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah, we're going to middle
No, I mean like on
Yeah,
season.
they're like, no, they're like, yeah, they're like punching us.
Just give us a heads up.
They're gatekeeping. All right, tell me. Pick your phone.
They're
Pick
punching
your
us.
phone. No,
Sorry, but on the team, they're my boss.
Yeah, that's.
I'm listening to them.
They're my boss and they're abusing.
Actually, Duncan is. But...
Yeah, right here.
So I was.
We're basically done.
Alright, we've got like 2 minutes.
Sure, that's how that works.
Listen, you guys have a nice boss.
Essays, or
These are
look
my
at our
bosses.
website,
They-
whatever you wanna do.
Actually, no, that's my boss.
No, that's
wrong.
What's wrong?
I'm joking.
Okay, everybody.
Can I get
2 more minutes? Never mind.
They're actually friends. They're
Leaving behind the train, the crackhead that was.
They only give you. That's how we're doing.
They spent like 2 weeks saying you guys.
The impact.
Only the video. The video. Oh, the video.
How did it take a?
In September.
Yeah.
Actually, this is our league. I'm proud of them. They work hard. They're strong.
Wait, was it the video that was shown at?
Yeah, the one that was, no, yeah.
If you guys want.
I know we're about to be
That's the point. You mean 10 years from now? Oh, wait, no, it is 5, isn't it? Are you guys planning on becoming mentors?
I mean, like.
You guys are
I'm like, all our we just go in school. They have like public speaking.
You have some real ambition.
That's some dedication.
This is dedication. I'm not planning, but I'm thinking like maybe like 20, 30 years in the future.
I don't give it.
40 years.
Maybe.
I get
I'm just saying it.
Okay, good job, everybody. Okay, so, let's bring our attention back. Okay, we want to hear your vote. Please, what did people pick out as our big thing?
I want to say like the nonprofit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Budget and everything.
Awesome, I love that. Okay, did anyone else have something different than the Philadelphia Robotics Coalition? Anyone else? That's what it's called, yep,
Should like your initiatives for like the hackathon and the things to teach like women in robotics and engineering.
Yeah.
As never mind.
We would say, so I would say that, those are our initiatives. We would call our big thing more about, more the Philadelphia Robotics Coalition, but that was great. That was awesome. Okay.
What's our mission statement? You can just quote it right from the thing.
Did you see it? I think it's in our, like, the first couple of sentences.
Read it. You read it.
If not, we'll recite it and it's really great, yes?
You read it. You didn't do no work.
Don't tell us that.
Yeah. Our team strives to break down those barriers and ensure the STEM program are equitable and accessible to all students.
That's great.
Well, there.
We actually have, the end is awesome. Right, okay. We actually,
Perfect.
what we say is our mission is to inspire and prepare the next generation of STEM leaders in Philadelphia. I believe it's at the end of our essay. It's also spotted throughout our presentation and.
Okay, and then can someone name one barrier that we discussed in our essay?
The cutting of funding from the public school system.
Oh, yeah.
That sucked.
Anyone else have another barrier?
Yeah?
The lack of STEM opportunities in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm on a roll.
Transportation, yes, and that one, and we'll talk about why later, but that one, judges really hooked up onto. It was in every single one of our award scripts, and we didn't expect that because it doesn't sound glamorous. When we say we provide transportation, that doesn't sound like some giant, big, life-changing thing. It really wasn't.
You guys said that you were trying to increase STEM equity, so that was like something you were.
Absolutely. That's a big goal of ours.
And then what are some bridges that we created to overcome those barriers?
What initiatives address those problems that we're having?
Don't you guys want to talk?
I heard charter buses. That's exactly right.
Who
Yes.
said that?
I did.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out. Yes, we charter buses.
Do you want another one?
Yeah, let's go.
Any others?
That was any other one?
Compensating coaches.
Yes, that's true. And well, again, like, oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
I could talk for hours about that. Yeah, who is our community? Who did we identify as our community? What did you get the sense of from our essay? Yes?
City of Philadelphia.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Right here.
Okay, and then were there any weak points that you picked out in our essay?
Are there any questions you have? Any things that you didn't understand, or any things that you were like,
Questions, comments, concerns?
Please be harsh.
Perfect? Oh.
It was not perfect. We know this.
No,
We've gone through and picked out things ourselves.
And be so.
Anything from
honest.
like the two judges in here?
No.
Later.
Well, okay.
Okay, great. Then we are perfect in your eyes. Very nice to know. No, let's let them figure that out later. Okay, good job, everybody. Okay. It is my pursuit. Whoever wants to. Again, with the last word, yeah. Great, so then wording.
Okay, so you should be clear and concise in your writing. Don't try to be humble, own what you do. So an example of us not owning what we did was in 2022, in our essay and in our presentation, we called the nonprofit, the Philadelphia Robotics Coalition. We said, the coalition did this. But in our 2023 essays and presentations, we changed it to our coalition. And it was like a very, very small amount of wording, but it really changed the way that we explained our initiative to the judges. And it showed that we took accountability for the work that the coalition was doing because it was the work that we were doing. Another thing is using impact definitions. It's on the first website, it's in their resources. If you use the definitions, it makes it so much easier for the judges to translate your work to like what winning the impact, like what the criteria is for winning impact. And using those it just makes the judging process so much easier, and it makes your work.
And and it like also saves characters if you're worried about that. Like instead of every single time saying, we didn't send kids every week to work with them, but we did send students once. That's more assisting than it is mentoring. That is more assisting than it is continually supporting. And so you can use that so that you don't have to describe it every single time. Or, like we staffed the event and also we provided all of the MCs and also we provided, you can just say that you ran it. That's it.
And the difference like between running
And hosting, know all of that. It's really helpful.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about storytelling, the ways that you can tell your team's story, your outreach mission to the judges. So first I'm going to talk about themes. Themes can be a super great way to make your presentation a little more interesting, add some fun and pep to your presentation. But when we pick a theme and we're using themes, we want to remember that it should fit somewhat with your work. Your theme should add to the presentation, make it more interesting, and also you should be really consistent throughout your submission with that theme, constantly repeating key phrases or details about that theme. But another big thing is do not let the theme take away from your work. I think a lot of teams struggle with balancing a theme and their content, and sometimes have a theme as a character or time filler, and we really want to get away from that because one, it's obvious to the judges, and two, you're taking away your precious time from your actual content. You want to put as much of your work out there when you're in the room with the judges. And if you're having your theme take away from that, it's gonna really damage how the judges see your work. But as an example of our theme last year was barriers and bridges. So we would constantly repeat the words barriers and bridges throughout every part of our submission, in our presentation, in the Q&A, to really drive that into the minds of the judges. And then we saw that in our award scripts, they really hung on to that idea. And it was a theme that was easy to put into all of our submissions and fit with everything we were talking about.
And it was how we've been thinking about our outreach from the beginning. So like that just personally was how we've been thinking about our outreach from the beginning. And so it really it was fairly easy to translate into an essay. So.
And adding on to that, also themes is a great way if you're really nervous going to the judging room and like you can, like if it's a theme and you can wear a costume and that makes you more comfortable, do it. Like whatever makes you feel better about presenting and talking to the judges.
It's actually much more unnatural for us to present in these. We presented in high heels and full suits. But it was really helpful because it not because we wanted to look professional necessarily, it just helped us get into a different mindset. So we could have been wearing tutus and pom-poms for all we care. It's about getting into a different mindset, and that's what made us feel comfortable. We also practiced, this is another point, but we also practiced walking in those high heels and suits for days beforehand, walking up and down the halls of our school in high heels and formal wear to get comfortable in that and to get into that mindset ourselves. So, yes.
Okay, elements.
Yeah, so elements of your story. Having a clearly defined mission and community and barriers and bridges, which we just talked about in the last talk, really helps you convey all three of these to the judges, but they're all really important. So what you do, how you do it, the actual mechanics of how you do what you do, and why you do it. The why you do it is kind of the thing that brings together your entire submission and your entire work.
Okay, emotional appeal. So we thought this was a super important thing, telling the judges personal stories about your experience in first, which can emphasize the significance of what you're doing. So for example, in both years before this, all three presenters talked about how they were on coalition-funded FLL teams, which is our nonprofit, before they came to our school. So it really just showed the pipeline that we created with an anecdotal piece that was really short and sweet and didn't take away from the time that we had.
It also put our impact right in front of them. The proof of what we've been doing is standing right here in front of you, presenting to you about why it's important. That was really helpful.
And then another point, let me go back. Emphasize, you've definitely seen us doing a lot of hand motions. We think it's super important to emphasize, we step forward. I don't know if you've been seeing that too.
I've gotten out of the habit.
Every time we talk, step forward. By emphasizing your words or phrases, you're able to get across certain key points. For our presentation, we'd write a script and then we'd bold or italicize certain words or phrases that we really wanted to get across, and then we'd say them in specific ways so that they'd stick with the judges, and lots of big body motions. And this is a really great way to add emotion, to make sure that certain points are really hung on to within your presentation.
And there's also two things I want to add to that. So we scripted our presentation. That's not what most judges will suggest that you do. We went to the Impact Talk at Worlds, and it said all the judges
the day before we presented
in a line, and they're talking to you and you're asking them questions. They actually really stress that. For most people, that is not a really, really good idea.
They went down the line and said, don't write a script.
Just don't do this. And we still did that, and it worked out for us, but I think it's all what your team is comfortable with. Yeah. So that happened to work for them because they really like having specific. Yeah.
So did they tell you, they said don't use a script, did they tell you what they wanted to say?
They just knowing the points.
Right.
And still having a set of details or topics that you want to talk about, but not scripting every single word.
They said they wouldn't suggest it, Because a lot of the times if kids forget their script while they're in the room, then they can feel like
totally
they
derails
don't know
them.
what to do.
And it's
So,
harder for them, yeah, it's harder for them to put it into, like, put emotion into it because they're thinking off of a memorized line. For
so
us,
still you're still scripting it, but it's not like, here's the exact sentence you have to say. If you don't say this sentence, you're gonna lose. So that's kind of how we approached it, which worked for us. But like, I think what works for a lot of other people is having what they want to discuss, the key details, and then being able to fill in the other words to add in and not having it be very set and rigid.
and like, I think that the key principle is do what makes you comfortable. Like, for both of us, I think having a script was so helpful, especially with the bolded and italicized words, because we knew how to inflect our voice. But for our third presenter, Maya, who is not here today, she's graduated. She actually didn't work best with the script, and so what she did is she'd write out her things and she'd bold all of the things that she knew she wanted to say. So all of the like phrases that she really liked that she had written down, but then when we were in the room, she would just use those key words and not follow the specific script. So sometimes she was talking about something that we'd never written down.